Hey everyone, we're here today with Willy Ogorzaly talking about his appearance with LawBooth on our show, ProjectUX. It used to be called ExposeUX, and he's actually also had a rebranding and is now called Just Legal. So we wanted to catch up with him. We filmed a little bit over a year ago, and we wanted to talk about, where the company has gone. He's had some really big developments just recently. So Willy, tell us a little bit about what your company does and what has happened since we filmed, September in 2016.
Thanks, Rob. So LawBooth was a SaaS-enabled marketplace. So what that means is the marketplace side, you could find a lawyer and schedule a free initial consultation. On the SaaS side, we sold tools like scheduling, so lawyers could embed a calendar widget on their own website. So instead of filling out a contact form, clients on their own website could schedule a free initial consultation.
Great. Yeah. And so, we know you had been working on this for quite a while. How long, when we filmed in September, had you been working on the company?
September 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been about 3 years, 9 months at that point. And I guess we're about to, January 20th will have been our 5-year anniversary of when we first had the idea.
Right. So 5 years. And tell our audience what significant milestone has just recently transpired as you round towards 5 years with this.
So just this past December 2017, we sold our technology assets to a company called Digital Town. So they purchased the Just Legal platform.
Great, cool. The exit, I feel like that's like, every startup's dream to a certain extent, and most don't even make it that far. So congratulations, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and then they changed the name again, so now it's called Got.Law.
And now it's called Got.Law. All right, and we definitely want to talk about kind of the rebranding and stuff that you went through. As I said, we've done our own kind of rebranding with ProjectUX, and that's a big part of a company's journey that really happens very often with startups. But just to set the stage a little bit, we thought we'd show a clip from the show where you sort of demo the product so that people can have a little bit of a better understanding of what the platform was like, and then maybe we can sort of compare it to now. And as we dive into some of the U experts' feedback a little deeper, this will sort of help frame that. So let me share my screen here real quick.
Let's find a lawyer. I'll show you guys how easy it is to find a lawyer and book a free consultation. So here you see a directory of lawyers that are sorted based on the distance from that zip code. And if you'd like to sort by other parameters, you can go ahead and use the sort and filter system here on the right. So we're going to look for a lawyer that can help with an acquisition, who actually does a flat fee, and who accepts cash. So here's Jeff. He looks like a good fit. Check out his profile to get a little bit more information on him. And when you're ready to book a free consultation, you can choose a meeting location. We're going to go ahead and choose secure video chat, do this conveniently. And then this is a real-time calendar synchronization. So we're actually synced with this lawyer's Google Calendar. And right now we're going to pick a time that works for both us, the client, and the lawyer. And we want to meet soon, so we're going to meet tomorrow. And then you can provide some really basic details to help the attorney prepare for the meeting and click done. And your appointment's booked. The empty spot is now taken out of the attorney's calendar, and both the client and the lawyer receive instant notifications via email and SMS, knowing that the appointment is booked and confirmed. As you guys may have noticed, we have a lot of cartoons on the website, which is kind of because we started by focusing on college students.
All right. Yeah. So now we kind of refresh that a little bit. I'm sure that's like peering back in time, to some degree.
It's a nice little throwback to last year.
Yeah, that hair. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was back in Denver, and so you're down in Austin now. You've kind of moved halfway across the country. Tell us a little bit about some of the changes that your company has gone through. Obviously you guys are off to a pretty good start with the design of your website and everything. So kind of tell us where you guys are at right now.
So some of the pivots that we kind of made, including rebranding, was related to the chicken and egg problems that every marketplace has. You got to sign up new lawyers and at the same time market to clients in order for the marketplace to work. And you can have all the lawyers in the world, but unless you have clients going there, it doesn't work. You can have all the clients in the world, but without the lawyers, no interactions and engagements are going to happen. And signing up lawyers was always one of our biggest challenges because lawyers are really good at not being sold to. And one of the things that we finally came to terms with was that lawyers also kind of had a bad taste in their mouth when it came to marketplaces in general. Some of the larger marketplaces, such as Avo and stuff, hadn't really left the best, didn't have the best reputation. If you look up their reviews, you see they have a lot of one-star reviews from a lot of lawyers. one of the reasons for that is that they were algorithmically rating attorneys and auto-generating profiles for them. So, and then on the other end of the spectrum, there's, people calling lawyers saying, oh, we can bring you leads, we can sell you leads. And then time and time again, they fail to deliver, or if they do bring leads, the leads aren't really high quality. So that was a challenge for us. And we did a couple interesting things to overcome that. One was auto-generating profiles for lawyers, not algorithmically rating them, but letting them claim their profile for free. And then another thing that we ended up doing was selling the SaaS. So instead of selling the marketplace first, saying, hey, if you sign up for free, we can start bringing you appointments. You only pay for bookings you receive. When we pitched that, it was hard to even get the conversation with the lawyers. Once we got a conversation with the lawyer, we explained, no, we're different than these other platforms. It's risk-free. And we had a really high conversion rate from demo to sale. It was over 50%. But getting that demo was such an uphill battle. So then we pivoted to selling the SaaS first and saying, hey, here's a tool that costs $25 per month. And you can see we actually rebuilt the scheduling widget. So in the demo that we looked back on, that was a plugin that we were licensing. And what we ended up doing was recreating our own scheduling widget from scratch that was specifically designed to work with for lawyers, for the legal industry. So it was super secure. All of the criteria and stuff were based on the questions that a lawyer would typically ask a client. And simple things like checking a box so the client can say, I understand that booking a free initial consultation doesn't establish an attorney-client relationship. We pretty much built the best intake and scheduling tool for the legal industry. And that ended up being a much better sales process because we'd say, here's a $25 tool. As soon as you add it to your website, you're going to start getting more bookings without changing anything else in your whole marketing stack. And that was a much better converting sale because it didn't have the same negative reputation. So that was a great way to get our foot in the door. And then as we scaled and as we expanded to new cities and stuff and had demand from clients, we could say, hey, Paul, we see you have some empty hours in your calendar, and we have clients looking for your area of expertise in your area. Would you like to make some of those empty hours available on our marketplace at no risk? That was a much better sale to get the lawyers onto the marketplace. The final pivot that we ended up making that ended up leading to our asset sale was realizing that a lot of these marketplaces already existed out there. Everything from a lawyer's own website, they're trying to find clients and sell their services online, all the way to a state bar association. Every state bar association had a directory of their attorneys, but these directories were very clunky, expensive to maintain, and weren't really doing the job. And what we realized is that we had built the best marketplace technology for the legal industry. And what we were struggling to do was get the lawyers and get the supply and the demand onto our website that these other marketplaces already had. So the final pivot we made was really something that I wanted to call marketplace as a service. We were getting ready to do all these blogs on it and stuff right before the asset sale. The idea was that there's all these marketplaces already out there that have the supply and the demand, but they lack the technology. So if we can power their marketplaces, then we can get the supply and the demand onto our platform. So what we were doing is we were creating the first kind of centralized or ideally decentralized database of lawyers, so that any website that had lawyer profiles and wanted people to be able to book an appointment with a lawyer and wanted to be able to accept payment and do video conferencing could leverage our technology on their own directory, on their own website. And by doing that, lawyers would no longer have to maintain 20 different profiles. If they updated their profile on their own website or on the state bar's website, that would update on our directory and any other directory that we integrated with. So that was solving a very real problem. That technology ended up being very useful to the company that bought the assets because Digital Town owns the city.law domains for Austin.law, New York.law, thousands of cities around the world. And they needed the technology to power their network of directories. So kind of how we were replatforming, we were rebuilding everything, ended up being a very strategic fit for this company.
I think you were smart to kind of, reframe the approach to some degree of like the value you were providing to what in the end your main customers were lawyers. You were a bridge to connect lawyers with their customers. And one of the key cornerstones of UX is all about serving your users in the best way possible. And so it sounds like you kind of like reframed a little bit from when we first found out about you to your approach and the sale you were able to make to these lawyers. And I'm curious, what from what you can remember, what were your biggest takeaways coming on the show? Did any of that influence maybe some of these changes that you made as far as your value proposition?
It absolutely did. And I think that, that point that you're making right now, just to listen to your customer is probably, the best user experience advice you can ever get. And I think that was kind of consistently what all of the judges were saying was, listen to the lawyers, focus on the lawyer as your customer, because without them, there is no business here. And so, the approach that inspired us to take was really to strip away everything. We decided to really take, a UX approach and start from scratch. And the way we were imagining it was, if this is a whole sphere of design and all the different directions that we could take with Just Legal, we had picked, with the cartoons, we had picked a spot kind of all the way at the edge of the sphere. And we had said, this is the right design for our platform. Whereas what we decided to do was actually start at the very middle and start with the most simple white background, plain text, very minimal design. And then every decision from there was going to be tested. And we were going to, if we had an idea for a user experience tweak that would provide a better experience to our users, then we would run tests on it. So every idea that we then had for a direction to take, for a design to take, a change to make to the UI that could give our users a better experience, we were running tests. And we were only implementing permanent changes that we could prove increase our click-through and our conversion rate. We also adopted some Google material design standards. And so that's an initiative that's still in progress on the website right now. But, as we're trying to build this style, one thing that we realized would be useful was utilizing the Google material design standards. They had kind of already done a lot of the legwork to figure out, what makes a good user experience. It's also an experience that a lot of users are familiar with because all the Google products utilize it. And we just thought it looked really great. And, it was kind of the next evolution of design after the flat design period that, we're kind of, that's been popular for the past 5 years. So it also makes it very easy to kind of inform your style guide and everything. For a company with small and limited resources, it was really useful for us to be able to use all the legwork that Google had done.
Yeah, you make a really good point there about, often when we talk to people in the field, they talk about don't reinvent the wheel, like users have certain expectations, and there's been so much, research and development done on certain things like with Google and other, big companies that if you're using those form types and such, that's really going to dictate a good user experience because your user will really pick up and understand sort of the framework of everything you have going on there. And I'm glad to hear that, what you learned on the show helped sort of like reframe your thoughts on that. And we kind of want to dive a little deeper into the branding and the new names. So
the experts, one of the most contentious points I remember from that episode was they had a lot of feedback about your logo and about your name. And we can show a clip of that right now.
Yeah, let's do that. There were a couple of good ones that we do want to show real quick for kicks. So let me bring that up again real quick.
If I'm looking for an attorney, I'm not sure this instills a lot of confidence in me, right?
Exactly.
And I think you are headed in the right direction with your redesign. So there's something called persuasion, emotion, and trust. I don't get a lot of trust from looking at cartoon characters when I'm trying to get myself out of jail or somebody that I care about, presumably. And so I think in some way you're on the right track here. It looks more professional. And so I think that's a good thing. It is simplified. It is a little difficult on the previous screen to even tell that there was a drop down that I needed to select, right? Or there's a zip code I needed to enter, and you're making that clear on this page. So I think that is a step forward.
All right, cool. So that's one of them that Rich Warnica had some feedback on, and we're just going to show this other one real quick too to frame this conversation. This is from Sean Beck.
Strangely intrigued, yet very confused by your logo. A backwards check. I've never seen a check mark that direction before, so I'm assuming there's a story behind it, and it's awfully thick and unbalanced. That's where I have a problem.
So I designed that. No, we actually had a contest to come up with a logo, and as you can see, we're looking at losing the heart in the check because again, it might mean a lot to us. It's an LB, and we want to help you find a lawyer you love, but that doesn't really come across to our actual customer. So do you guys think this is an improvement just over the old logo? Or any other changes you would make as we kind of redesign it?
To use the word improvement would suggest that it's better. I say they're the same. I hate them both.
Cool. Any feedback? What?
So, Sean was being a little harsh there, but I think, he spoke the truth. And, Yeah, why don't you ask your question
Yeah,
there?
so, did that feedback in any way kind of affect your rebranding at all? Or tell us about how you rebranded. Did that happen like before the sale or after the sale? Or walk us through that.
So it happened shortly after we moved down to Austin. We moved to Austin. We connected with some really cool investors, one of which was very strategic. They were, a big company in the industry that we really looked up to. And, having them as investors, we knew was going to, help us out in many ways. They had quite a few lawyers already as customers. And so it was a very strategic investor that we wanted on board. They ended up being our lead investors for the most recent round. And they didn't like the name either. They insisted on, they didn't demand it, but they said, we'd like for you guys to change the name. We can get you this domain, justlegal.com, for a good price. And it was a rush decision as well. So at the same time, we had been selected as one of the top 12 legal tech companies by lawyers in the legal community, and we were going to be featured at the ABA Tech Show. So we needed to get our branding over to them so that they could print everything out, and we had a deadline for that. So we kind of did the whole rebranding process in a weekend. We rushed it. And fortunately, we had done it before, so we knew a lot of what was involved. But one of the mistakes we made by rushing it was that we didn't really look into the domain's history. So this is kind of a funny story. We went with Just Legal because our investors liked it. We thought it was a great name and simple. For the logo, I literally just made the logo in Illustrator, just using Proxima Nova font. Made some basic
I know where this is going.
You can already see. So we didn't think about it. But then, shortly after we had pulled the trigger and sent everything over to the ABA Tech Shop, people said, Just Legal, have you thought about, what is it, like a porn website? And we said, what are you talking about? And they said, barely legal. It hadn't even occurred to us. And so, fast forward a week, our SEO traffic plummeted. So one of the, the best things we always had going for our business was our organic search traffic. And we knew that in the industry, in order to win the legal industry as a marketplace, it was essential to show up on the first page of search results. Yeah, 9 of the top 10 Google AdWord costs are legal related. 78 of the top 100 cost per clicks are legal related. And part of that is demonstrates how lawyers need help with marketing, because they know that there's opportunity online and stuff, but they're all just kind of throwing money at the most obvious choice, and that drives the price of these clicks up. So it's very valuable to show up on the first page of search results. And our SEO traffic, since we had launched the website, was just skyrocket. It was growing really, really quickly. And so that helped us raise this funding. We switched names, and then our SEO traffic plummeted to like almost nothing. And we're like, what's going on? And Google doesn't give you a lot of support for SEO. They can't support everybody because they don't make money off that directly. So we're kind of in the dark, and we're like on the forums, trying to talk to experts and figure out what's going on. And one of the clues was that we were no longer showing up in safe search, or when safe search was turned on. We weren't showing up at all in search results. We were also getting blocked by firewalls. So a lot of law firms have, pretty intense firewalls, and they weren't able to access our website because it said that it contained pornographic material. So if you want, I don't recommend it, but you can go on the Wayback Machine. You can go back in time, 10 years ago to see what Just Legal used to be. And it used to be a porn website, like a spammy porn website too. Not even a good one. So
not even a good one. Dang.
It was blacklisted by Google. Yeah. And that took months to fix. But we cleaned it up. And yeah, so now hopefully it's a story that we'll look back on and laugh about one day, but that was definitely a nightmare.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. And you do have to be careful about the annals of the history of the web, and there's a lot of there's like kind of dark patterns and things like that you might have to avoid. I want to just pull up your new website real quick, so we can look at that. And I think I liked what you were saying about, how you kind of went back to the bare minimum kind of thing. You stripped it down, and your website definitely reflects that now. And I'm sure you're, as the sale kind of took priority over things. So yeah, kind of, walk us through just a little bit of what it took to kind of go back to the basics here. And get things simplified and stripped down. I like this plain view, and I think your functionality is probably really good here. So how did you and your team accomplish this from where you were before?
So it was a lot of, building the plane while flying it. And especially, this past year, a lot of our efforts have been focused on this asset sale. And design wasn't necessarily the most important thing for them. And we were in the middle of re-platforming. So rebuilding everything to be this API-driven platform. So a lot of back-end work. And so one benefit of this stripped down design was that, it was so basic. We were doing our best to use Google material design standards. So that kind of just streamlined the whole redesign process. So I think it looks a lot better, a lot cleaner. We haven't really had the time to run a lot of the experiments and stuff like we hoped. That was part of the strategy. But I think that this clean, stripped down design definitely instills a lot more trust than the previous design. And I think it looks better. I love the simplicity of it. But I'm looking at it now and I still see a lot of room for improvement that I think that they'll continue making, but they're still working on this whole kind of transition.
Well, in design, like there's always room for improvement, and the best products are constantly iterating, and they are, looking at what they can do to improve and, make the user experience more enticing. And I think that was one of the, key takeaways that we found when we went back and reviewed too, was the experts talked about, understanding your users. And we actually want to play a couple of clips real quick about that, because just, the environments and the mindsets of the products they were using, I think can be so important. So
making it more useful would be to educate your user as they go. What I'm looking for here and not seeing are tips and instructions, and when might I want this type of fee type versus another, what kind of attorney do I need? Those kinds of things could be addressed in the interface itself. My reaction to your new design is that it actually looks a bit like a step backward. It's a little text heavy, not so designed and graphically engaging.
Thank you.
Willy.
All right, that's one clip.
So what's the information contained here? So we got a picture. We've got the type of attorney.
Yep,
that
so
they are.
Practice areas right here.
Yep.
Their price per hour, if they've input it.
Yep.
The fact that they offer a free initial consultation, and their location. And their law firm, which gets more important as you get to the larger firms.
Right. And then the filtering over on the left there, is that what that is?
Yes, this is all sorting and filtering.
There's a lot of options.
Yeah, so this is it's a new addition to the website, the sorting and filtering. And right now we're browsing our full directory of lawyers. So what's set in stone are is the structure. We can modify it, but right now specialties, payment type, payment structure, it'll always be in this order. And then the actual specialties, these move around based on what's actually in the directory.
There needs to be some simplification here. To your point, it needs to be improved.
Yeah, and I think that last point where they touched on is simplifying that specific portion, right, of the sorting. And we just looked at it, and it's not a huge difference in the layout, but the functionality of it is much more intuitive, I think, the way the drop downs unfold. And
they go on to give you some feedback on, he said there was a lot of information, and with all those filters and all those options, it's a pretty big cognitive load for your users to be handling, when they're trying to find a lawyer for the first time. So one of the pieces of feedback that I noticed you guys really implemented, which is awesome, was that you kind of gave users the option to expand on those. So, you kind of rolled up some of those options into like a little module, and then gave them the option to expand. So they're kind of looking at fewer options at a time. So good job on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the little things. That was an easy tip. And I think it makes the whole experience much better. It just makes the page look nicer.
Yeah, and on a more of a broader scale, did any of the kind of feedback or takeaways, influence just how you thought about, your users and the way to present your product to them?
I think it was just a good reminder all around just to really listen to the users. That was a mistake that we had made early on, was, designing for ourselves. And something that we always reminded ourselves was to, go back to the users at the end of the day. It's what they care about that matters. So that was definitely the biggest takeaway, was just to, talk to the customers.
Yeah, that's really well said, and I think is something that when you're in a startup, it's really easy to kind of lose sight of, becoming a, my UX designer rather than a UX designer. And it's understandable. You've been, working your tail off at this for many years, and, you're very passionate about it. And, I've worked on startups too, and I've known people who have fallen victim to the same thing. So it's really good to see you kind of, take note of that and kind of go back to the basics, and that being something that led to this, sale, which, obviously, you made some real progress to make that happen. So what do you see as, you know, the future of this product and the design going forward? You know, where is the user experience headed of Got Legal?
So now the company is called Got Law. I think that they're really working on, again, kind of the same strategy that we laid out of implementing more of the Google material design standards. I think there's still a lot of work to be done to make the website look consistent and you know, convert well. So one of the big challenges is always, you know, building the plane while flying it, making changes while the product's already live. The lean approach has always worked really well for us. So just like in that first video, we're looking at the sorting and filtering. You know, we had to make the decision: do we have no sorting and filtering, or do we put sorting and filtering up there that looks kind of crappy, and then, you know, see how people use it? And the lean approach always worked really well for us. Get something out there, and then the best was to sit down with a user and see how they use it, see if it makes sense for them, and then get feedback from that. Go release a new update, test it again. And so I think that that's kind of what they're going to continue doing, is adopting those material design standards, sitting with users, and, you know, making incremental improvements piece by piece. And I'm excited to see them work on that. I know that they've been very busy, you know, recreating the whole backend experience. So that's where a lot of the effort over the past year has been. I'm really excited for them to now, you know, have some time to be able to focus on the front end stuff, because I think that just some incremental changes there can lead to a really nice experience.
Yeah, definitely. And you raise a good point there, because sometimes the, you know, the back end processes, while not forward facing or, you know, sexy looking, can be the cornerstone of the UX, right? I mean, is like, how is the functionality? What are the results I'm getting? You know, if you're not getting high quality results returned and, you know, being able to have like high level functionality, then, you know, a good design only goes so far.
Totally. I think there's a lot of products out there, you know, these days that are don't have the best backend functionality, but they look really good. And right now you see a lot of those products winning compared to their legacy competitors that have 20 years of backend development and functionality, but look clunky. They look ugly. And you know, the newer generation that you know, like you said, users have expectations, and if you're not meeting those expectations, they're going to make inferences. So it's kind of unfortunate, but that is kind of, you know, that's the day and age we live in. So.
Yeah, no,
design can go a long way. Yeah,
you're totally right, and it does still pay. I mean, you just do have to focus on design. I mean, sometimes it really is where you need to start first, because that's where people make their first judgments. You know, it's like, what does something look like? You know, can I easily log in? Are my first clicks making sense? Because if your backend's great but people can't use it well, then they're really not going to even try. And you know, you can probably over time sort of more fix your back-end issues, depending on the nature of the product, but that's a good point.
Absolutely. And for us, one of the challenges was always that, you know, we went live at such an early stage. We accidentally went live when, after a couple months of developing our MVP, people started booking appointments before we even had any lawyers. But that's, again, testament to the lean approach. And, you know, we weren't trying to get something out there, but within 48 hours of adding the scheduling technology to the website, without doing any marketing or anything, this was just for testing. We were just building our MVP. People started booking appointments. And that was our first big learning. That informed our first pivot to focus more on the scheduling than the video conferencing, which was the initial approach we took. We thought just by adding, creating a website where you could video chat with lawyers, we were going to disrupt the industry. And we realized that video conferencing is cool. It's definitely a compelling piece, but by itself, it wasn't compelling enough to get attorneys and users to change their habits. But the scheduling, fortunately, we realized, you know, within a couple months of building this, that scheduling wasn't enough to get people to change their habits, and it actually solved a bigger problem. So ever since then, we were, you know, trying to develop a back end, which was so basic in the early stages, and trying to make it look good, and doing all that at the same time while trying to build a business and really having very little idea of what we were doing. It was definitely a challenge, but, you know, it was an incredible learning experience, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a great, you know, takeaway for our viewers out there, is that you really let the user's habits dictate what they were really looking for and the value that you really think your platform can provide. You know, you started thinking, oh, it's this video conferencing service. You weren't really thinking about the scheduling portals as much, and you quickly saw that rise to the top, and you were like, that's where our users are really looking to us. That's the real value we can provide. And then, you know, lawyers, they have time to fill and such like that, and, you know, that was really smart. And obviously led you to a, you know, successful place. So we commend you for that.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job of paying attention to your users on both sides of the marketplace. But yeah, that's awesome. So just your final thoughts. Tell us about your experience back when it was Expose UX, when you came on the show. What was that experience like?
Well, it was a great experience. I thought it was super cool at the time. Felt like we were filming a real TV show and stuff. I think you guys did a good job making it feel superficial, and I was impressed you had just come into town and set all that up so quickly. I know you guys were you're doing a traveling road trip around the whole country and filming these UX episodes. So I was definitely very impressed by that. I don't know if you guys know this, but I ended up getting super sick that night, and I was I remember coming down with something, and I was sick for a few days. So during the episode, I was on the verge of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
The show must go on. Yeah.
You held it together pretty well, I will say. You did a really good job. And, we thank you for that compliment. I mean, going on tour was a really cool part of the show, and it's something we kind of want to maybe do again eventually. We're currently kind of filming in Dallas. We've sort of also kind of gone back and looked at the value we can provide to the companies we work for. And so we're diving deeper into the UX of companies now. We're doing user testing on their products. And,
cool.
Who knows? I mean, we maybe love to do something with the Got Law team going forward. But I'd like to ask sort of now, what's next for you? I mean, you're not as involved with the company as you used to be. So what are you doing now in your spare time?
So still, wrapping up the final things with Just Legal and Got Law, making sure the investors and the team, everyone's taken care of and stuff. So there's some final steps there, but we're very close to being completely done with that. And now I'm very excited to be working on some new projects that I would love to do some user testing with. I'd love to bring back on the show. I'm getting really interested in blockchain and cryptocurrencies, specifically their social good applications. So I joined a consulting group, Taylor Wilco. And I'm kind of leading the blockchain initiatives there. We're helping out enterprises. We're seeing a lot of interest in working on some projects right now at the intersection of blockchain and IoT, Internet of Things. Right. So we're making a big bet of this consulting group that over the next 10 years, billions of these devices are going to be connected, and all those interactions and stuff are going to occur on the blockchain. And very few businesses or consulting groups will have expertise at that intersection in both those areas. So that's really exciting. We're working on some cool projects there, learning a ton about the blockchain, which is really fascinating stuff that I think is going to help shape our future over the next decade. Mm-hmm. And I'm working on two really cool projects. One is called Cause. It's a blockchain-based social network designed to facilitate and incentivize problem solving. The problem that we're trying to solve is the fact that every year about $390 billion gets donated to nonprofits, but how many problems actually get solved?
Very cool. Yeah, I'm fascinated by the whole blockchain and cryptocurrency movement. I'm not myself currently invested in, although I wish I was, but I'm definitely keeping a watchful eye. And I really see it transforming certain industries, and potentially moving its way into UX, as all of these different companies, like the ones you talked about, are sort of thinking, well, how do we weave that into the fabric of what we're doing?
Totally.
Stripping out different processes and ways that the financial markets currently work, and putting it more in the people's hands to a certain degree. That decentralization, I think, could be a double-edged sword, and I think there's definitely going to be some interesting kind of corrections and movements as we move forward with that, but I definitely see it as a game changer.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the user experience will be interesting there too, because a lot of these projects right now, it's kind of the early stages and stuff when they're talking about blockchain everywhere on their websites and stuff, but really for the users, they don't necessarily need to know that blockchain's involved. It's important to know that there's these benefits, that it is decentralized, and they don't need to trust anybody. And those benefits can be communicated to the user, but at the end of the day, the end user doesn't need to know that there's all this crazy back-end technology that they may not understand going on in the background. So I think, it'll be really interesting to see some of these blockchain projects, which are raising a lot of money and are able to invest quite a bit into design and user experience. It'll be really interesting to see what they build.
Yeah, you're right there. As one of our UX experts, Adam Polanski, has said on the show before, users don't necessarily need to know how the sausage is made. And that's not really what they're after. They just want the flavor and the taste and the benefit of it. So you definitely raised a good point there. Well, hey, last question I got for you is, if you were to tell a startup, something, and I would ask, why should a startup come on ProjectUX? What would you say?
Well, multiple benefits. First of all, I'd say, why not? We're talking about free exposure here to, an audience of technical people that that are, could potentially be evangelists for your product. You should always be trying to get the word out there. I say any opportunity, for PR and stuff like that, take it. No such thing as bad press. Even if you blow it and it goes viral, it's you'll still get some users. So why not? And plus you get feedback from experts, and the user experience can get pretty expensive. So to have 3 diverse experts at once looking at your product and together, confirming or validating, your thoughts, your assumptions and stuff, or invalidating them and giving you new ideas, that's super valuable. So, as you can see, it helped inform our design and stuff. I'm absolutely glad that I took, a few hours out of my day to come down and film that with you. And yeah, I would say, why not?
Great. Well, cool, and we're glad you got to participate. That was only version 1 of the show, and now we do a lot more, and I think we're presenting more of a value to startups and really trying to service their UX needs. Because as much as you got from that, you didn't have that long with the experts. I mean, how long were you on the show? Maybe 20, 30 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely know you got value out of that, but we're looking to dive like even deeper in, and yeah, who knows, maybe we'd love to talk to your people at got.law, and we wish you guys all the best success as you complete the sale and continue to build this new brand and website and everything. So yeah, thank you so much for talking with us today. It was really good to catch up.
Thanks, Rob and Teresa. Yeah, great catching up with you guys.
Yeah, and
best of luck with ProjectUX.
Yeah, thank you, and hopefully I'll see you down in Austin before too long. And if you ever make your way to Dallas, holler at us.
That sounds great. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, we'll talk again soon. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.